Hello, I'm Les Miller. This is Einstein Needs Revision Part 2, Why Time Travel is Impossible. To give you a bit of a review from last time, if you've seen the video already, light doesn't move through the universe. The universe moves around light. A simple statement maybe, or maybe a very complicated one, because it literally means an entire reimagining of the universe. What I said there in reference to this idea had metaphysical and physical implications, and we'll be covering the same kind of things today as well. Some other aspects of the theory of relativity that affect our understanding of the universe that I don't think very many people are thinking of, that need to be thought of, that we'll discuss, and then we'll look for some sort of philosophical meaning behind it all. What we'll do today is in some ways set aside the things I said in number 1 about the fact that light speed itself is the singularity. Because just as you're either above or below the freezing point, 0 Celsius, 32 Fahrenheit, and you're never at the freezing point, and the same with airplanes, they can either fly above or below the speed of sound, but only sound itself travels at the speed of sound. It probably is the same thing with light speed, even though last time I said if you could travel at light speed, the entire universe would collapse upon you. Basically, you probably never could. So we're going to reference the physics that we'll discuss here in reference to the idea, the way most people think of the things we see in science fiction, that warp drive, hyperspace, things that I said were unnecessary, that, we'll think about them as if that's how things are. Black holes, number 1. If gravity is at different places so strong that light itself cannot escape, then being as we are in a galaxy with, 100 billion stars? Their gravity must be influencing the speed of light as we experience it here and now. If you could go into a place in the universe between galaxies where you've got a vast, vast distance, where there are no sources of gravity, the speed of light technically should be higher than what we think it is now. Now, does this change simple formulas like E equals mc squared? No. C is still the constant that it always is, but this is part of this concept of our universe changing depending on how fast we're going. It also changes depending on how much gravity is around us. Our next point here. I remember when I was in grade 8 at Colonel MacLeod Junior High School. One thing we were shown there was what you'll see here as I put it up on screen, something called the time dilation graph. This is how you work out the math of the things that happen as you approach light speed. And if you could go beyond the speed of light, what you'd have to do is basically flip the graph over, and everything on the other side, as you go back down this curve into what seems like some sort of normalcy, everything there has to be multiplied by the square root of -1. This is partly where I got the idea of light speed being some sort of singularity, because essentially, put these two graphs together with light speed in between, it really should be the 0 point in the equations. Maybe if I, square root of -1, was on this side of the equations, maybe things would work out better with some of these mysteries that scientists are trying to solve that they just can't solve. But we'll get back to the basic theme of this video. Time travel is impossible. And here's why. A simple explanation is all we need, just like the example of sound and temperature. When you're in a car, driving around a corner, you naturally accelerate as you go into the curve. That's simple physics. I learned that in grade 10 in high school. You come out of the curb, you naturally decelerate. You've got to step on the gas going out of the curve, but you've got to step on the brake going into the curve. When you get in an elevator, as the theory of relativity states, no difference mathematically between gravity and a sustained acceleration. You feel extra gravity as the elevator goes up. But then when the elevator comes to a stop, that extra gravity that you felt at the beginning gets reversed. You go back to the normal gravity that you're at on the Earth's surface. And so if you could go up this curve and down the other side into this square root of -1 territory, anything that would happen to you there in the way of going backward in time, any time you would lose beyond light speed, once you drop back out of hyperspace, turn the warp engine off, all that you lost you would get back. And you would be back in normal space, normal time. You would not be 55 years in the past, 100 years in the past, doing anything you could do to change history, which is, of course, another aspect of Einstein's relativistic theories. The word universe means universal. It means everything. It means infinity. What we see out there is an infinity. How can there be more than one infinity? Well, I came back in time from 6 weeks later to see if I can make some changes to this video, just the way they want to make changes to history in all these time travel TV shows, huh? Nah, I'm just kidding. Got Milo here on my lap. Here, say hi, Milo. Such a good kitty cat. Yeah, anyway, just did want to add a few things here as we are transitioning from the physical aspects of this video to the metaphysical, the meaning of it all. Why? Why do people just love so much to talk about things like time travel, alternate history, in the hopes that maybe, just maybe, it could be real? Which, no, it isn't. It's not possible. Simple fact. Somewhere out there, there's a different version of me who didn't make the same mistakes I did, chose the other path when I made a wrong decision in life. It's a way for modern people, since our world makes no room for God, a way for people to try to cope with their regrets. Well, when you understand the forgiveness of the Lord, and when you understand His power to guide history and guide your life, even though He does give you free choice, you don't need to feel those feelings. Yes, we have regrets. Yes, we are sorry for the wrong things we do in life, the wrong choices we make, and we should be. But forgiveness is possible. So these are the things we'll deal with as we transition. We'll start off with some big thoughts on the universe and then go into an application for each individual's life. Anywhere we could go in time, just like anywhere we could go in physical space now, God would be there. So the grandfather paradox is really something that is unnecessary to think about. If you really did want to do an experiment by going backward in time to prevent your grandparents from meeting, to see if that would cause you to not be born, and this mysterious time loop that they're constantly dealing with on these shows, well, you know what would happen is God would send an angel to make sure that didn't happen, because He's the one truly guiding world history. What is the point of evolution? What is the point of the Big Bang Theory? What is the point of sending out all these space probes and having all these telescopes do all this research? People are trying to find an explanation for the origin of the universe, the origin of life, that excludes God. Well, when you're a Christian, you don't need to do that. And that's Deuteronomy 29:29. The secret things belong to the Lord our God, but those things which are revealed belong to us and to our children forever, that we may do all the words of this law. So there you go. He'll never reveal how he can create simply by speaking, and matter comes into existence. All the matter was not concentrated in the center of the universe 14 billion years ago. As I showed you in the last time, in the other Einstein video, the singularity is still with us because light speed is the singularity. He is the singularity. But what's the point here? That we may do all the words of this law. Not just take the information that we gather from our study and say, neat, isn't that interesting? No, it's to make us better people. It's to build society according to better principles. That's what it's all about. Hebrews chapter 11, verse 6. One of the first verses ever used by Christians when they approach the creation-evolution debate from a philosophical angle. But without faith, it is impossible to please him. For he who comes to God must believe that he is, and that he is a rewarder of those who diligently seek him. Time travel again, parallel universes. We love to debate these topics in science and science fiction, especially. Makes great entertainment. I love time travel shows. They're fun. One of my favorite things to do on YouTube is watch alternate history videos. But I find interesting is that a lot of these imagined scenarios, if one thing had changed previously, a lot of times they're worse than what we have now. As I've said, somebody has to guide history, and I believe that is God. And I believe he is guiding history to the best possible way it can outcome. James 5, 19 and 20. Brethren, if anyone among you wanders from the truth, and someone turns him back, let him know that he who turns a sinner from the error of his way will save a soul from death and cover a multitude of sins. God created a perfect world because he created people, the first two people, with the ability within them to obey, to be good. And physically eating that piece of fruit opened the door to the enemy of souls to have control in this world and tempt us, but also it warped their own selves. It made them weak, unable to live up to the great high calling that God had put before them to make this world a paradise. And in every generation, every human being has in some way repeated those mistakes. And all of history is God working to make things better through Jesus, who came, died on the cross for us. And again, we have the promise, new life will come. Paradise will be restored. But it can be restored for you now in the sense that once you surrender yourself to him, you accept his way of life, he is now going to give you the ability to understand how to rightly apply all these various rules and do's and don'ts, to balance the Ten Commandments with the Sermon on the Mount, to balance love and kindness with obedience and justice, so that you can fulfill his will for the good things of the world on the good side and not let him down anymore. So when you let him down, you're letting yourself down. When you get right with God, it leads to a proper understanding of who you are, and you get right with yourself in one sense. So those are thoughts on the metaphysical and physical. Time travel, not possible. Therefore, alternate universes, not possible. But because of the forgiveness he offers, because of the guidance he will give you in life, not necessary either.